Johnny's coming home late, he's been out on the town. Another Sunday morning coming down. WWJD, what would Jesus do? I thought it was great. There was only one problem. Not many people were doing it massively in common. And that is that we're all hurting people. We're all people who have flaws.
Welcome to Backroads Truth, the podcast where faith meets melody. Hosted by ICMA Artist of the Year, singer-songwriter, Justin Todd Herod.
Hey, welcome to Backroads Truth. My name is Justin Todd Herod, here with you once again, going down the back roads on some original songs that I've written. Going to play one for you today called That's What Jesus Would Do. And we're going to take a little ride down the back roads on some truth that I think will hopefully mean something to your life. I know it meant a lot to me when I wrote the song. So here it goes. Johnny's coming home late, he's been out on the town. Another Sunday morning coming down. He passes by the church on his way home. Lost his kids and he lost his wife. The whiskey on his breath is the reason why. They just stare as he drives on. What if he walked right up to you? You ask yourself, what would Jesus do? He just take him by the hand, saying, no, I understand. I'll be there no matter what you go through, because I love you. That's what Jesus would do. Jessie's got a habit that she just can't kick. Makes it real hard for her to fit in at that big old church down on 5th and Main. But she likes to sing with her hands held high, but they all stare when she walks by. She just stays home while the church bells ring. What if she sat right down by you? You ask yourself, what would Jesus do? He just take her by the hand, saying, no, I understand. I'll be there no matter what you go through. Oh, 'cause I love you. That's what Jesus would do. Saw a bracelet just the other day, 4 letters to abbreviate the way we should live our lives. Well, I wonder if he was here right now, he could teach us how. Would we still have to ask why? When it comes down to me and you, you ask yourself, what would Jesus do? He just take them by the hand, saying, no, I understand. I'll be there no matter what you go through. Oh, 'cause I love you. That's what Jesus would do. I'll be there no matter what you go through, 'cause he loves you. Oh, he loves you. That's what Jesus would do. Wow. Man, that's a hard song to play, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, though. I hope you enjoyed. Listen, man, it's just unplugged. I mean, if you go to any of the outlets, musical platforms, the albums of course, have pro players. I play guitar on them as well. But when you're sitting down just doing them raw like that, especially in a chair, and you're just trying to go through all the, just the raw instinct of writing a song, there's some things that may not be perfect. So there's maybe a couple of things on that song that I look back on, I say, man, I could have played it better. But the whole point of writing a song is the lyrics, right? I mean, that's the thing, is that we may get the lyrics down. And so the title of that song is That's What Jesus Would Do. Here's the whole thing. I don't know, churchgoer, non-churchgoer, where you're at, but I will say everybody probably remembers back in the early 2000s, a big fad that was going on. Some of you guys may have seen it, some of you may not, but it was WWJD. What would Jesus do, right? I don't know if anybody recalls that. I do, because I was in that vein on the campus of a seminary up in Dallas, and it was doing some theological studies and things like that back during the time period. And I will tell you, man, I remember seeing that. The little bracelets, the T-shirts, the bumper stickers. I mean, there was everywhere. WWJD, it's an acrostic or whatever you want to call it, for what would Jesus do? So you're probably thinking by now, well, how in the world did you get an idea for a song on that? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly how I got an idea for it. Because during that time period, I saw how popular that was. I saw just how many people were doing it and raving about it. Like, yeah, WWJD, WWJD, WWJD. What would Jesus do? Here's the problem that I noticed, and I might have even been one of them, and maybe you have, if you're a church person or not, or maybe you felt maybe the other end of it. I thought it was great. There was only one problem. Not many people were doing it. And what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. What would Jesus do? Well, that can be answered many faceted. It could be multifaceted. I just chose this song to play because I think it answers the question within the context of the song. Let's take a verse. Johnny's coming home late. He's been out on the town. Another Sunday morning coming down. He's been out all night. He's been drinking. He's got pain. He lost his kids and his wife. He drives by the big, gigantic, whatever your brand of church is, and they're just staring at him with disdain. They're staring at him with like, man, this guy's a loser. He's never going to change. And he just drives on by, goes on home alone, and continues down that road of pain or whatever. Next verse, Jessie's got a habit she just can't kick. It makes it real hard for her to fit in. Where? At that big old church down on 5th and Main. Where am I going with this? Let me tell you exactly where I'm going. What would Jesus do? Well, there's lots of things he did do, and we'll just briefly touch on it. He did a lot of things, theologically speaking, in the Bible. Died for us, gave his life for us. We'll talk about that toward the end of the show. But here's one thing that he did do in the context of this song, just so we can approach our topic today. He always loved hurting people. He always had time for hurting people. The subject that I'm kind of talking about today with this song in mind is being hurt in church, or being hurt by somebody who's a religious person. Being hurt by somebody or shunned by somebody who maybe is a member of an organized thing, and for some reason you showed up. Maybe you're a Johnny, maybe you're a Jesse. Maybe you're one of those people that said, man, I really want to fit in somewhere. I want to be able, but my reputation, my addictions, the things in my life that I'm battling with have made me feel by probably the attitudes or actions of someone like they don't love me. And so therefore that may have put something in your mind that maybe that's how God feels about you. Well, I want to let you know the reason I wrote this song. Here's the story behind it. I was going up there to seminary. I was a Baptist pastor. I know that looks odd to see a guy with a Lone Star Feed shirt on and an old cowboy hat here. I had a great church, and in some ways I may have actually behaved that way and not even aware of it, because sometimes religion will make people do that. Before we go any further, let's just define a couple of terms: religion and relationship. What is religion? Well, it's just man's best attempt to try to find some way to get to God. It's man's attempt to try to make some way that he may find himself good enough and find self-righteousness, if you want to call it that, which is a great term, by the way, to try to get to God. But relationship, however, is having a relationship with God through what you'll hear throughout these programs, by knowing Him the only way you can know Him. And then from that, we see that all of us really have something massively in common. Massively in common. And that is that we're all hurting people. We're all people who have flaws. We're all people who've been through dirt. We're all people, regardless how much we don't think we are. We are. It's just some people feel like maybe they're not, because they belong to something with a title on it. They belong to something with some type of, hey, this makes me this makes me that. But this song, when I wrote it, I was up there and I was pastoring a church and I was going to seminary, and I'll never forget seeing all the WWJD. Nothing wrong with it, by the way. Please, nobody get mad at me. I don't think that anybody out there, hopefully you can see my heart and know that I'm not downgrading those things. There's probably something that many people use for great purposes. I'm just going to convey the story. And there I was, man, doing all this and kind of in the midst of when it was at its hype, you know. And I'll never forget one day I came home and I'm getting ready to, you know, kind of do my thing. I'm still going on the road a little bit. I'm starting to get the music thing going. And I was cleaning out some dresser drawers, you know, your junk drawer. And I'm getting out all the nuts and bolts and, you know, the pocket knives with broken blades and all these things. And in there, I see one of these little rubber snap bracelets, you know. And on it, I can faintly make out WWJD. What would Jesus do? And right there, it's like I want to call it an epiphany. And I'm doing that just for the sake so everybody can understand. It really was more than that. It was an awakening. Hey, you know, what would he do? If you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to just take a moment because I want to read something to you. And I hope that you guys are okay with this. I'm a songwriter, but a lot of times I get inspiration from songs from the greatest source of truth that you can ever have. And here it is right here. This is just out of the Gospel of Mark, and it just simply says, these guys, you can read it for yourself, Mark chapter 2, but I don't read the story, then I'm going to continue on with my story. These guys are looking at Jesus out here, and he's hanging out with sinners, it says, and tax collectors. They said to his disciples, why is he eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners? That's the modern day equivalent. It's why is he hanging out with Johnny and why is he hanging out with Jesse? That's the modern day equivalent of back when I was a nightclub performer and my reputation was stained in my community. Why was he hanging out with Justin Todd Herod? Why is he hanging out with somebody like me who really, probably the whole community, I'm sure, was probably thinking this guy's never going to change. But listen to the rest of this verse. It says, and hearing this, Jesus said to them, it's not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. In essence, that's what Jesus would do. Remember the line it says, he'd just take them by the hand. Say, you know, I understand. I'll be there no matter what you go through because I love you. That's what Jesus would do. So as this story about this song goes on, I'm sitting there looking at this snap bracelet. I'm sitting there looking at this thing. I can make out that WWJD. And during this time period, I didn't know this song was going to become a number one song for me on certain charts. It was the song of the year with the Texas Country Music Association in the Christian country genre. I didn't know this at the time, but what was happening in my heart, I was saying, man, more than winning awards, more than actually, you know, getting songs on the radio, more than getting to go out and play and write songs and go to Nashville or wherever we're going to do it or at Fort Worth where the big Texas music deal was, I said, here's what I want to do. Here's what I hope I can do. Through music and just through my personality and something as simple as this podcast, Backroads Truth. I want to be like that. I want to be able to love that way. I want to be able to still have a relationship and be able to love that way instead of shunning people, instead of making people think, well, I'm better than you, to express this big nugget of truth, this big back road, gigantic, 4-lane highway of truth, if you will, is that God loves you. And he loves you even based on all your flaws and all of your problems. And that's really what we see going on in this song. And that's what was happening to me. That's what was happening as a songwriter, to try to convey a message now that says, at the very end, it says, I saw a bracelet just the other day, 4 letters to abbreviate how we should live our life. And I'm thinking, man, what good does it do to be like, I'm this, I'm that. I have this name on my sign. I sit on the front row, back row. I'm this. I wear this type of clothes. If we can't treat people like the one that we're saying that we're there to serve and worship and be with in the first place, what good does it do? Well, really, it's not. Matter of fact, I believe it's antithetical, if I could use that word, to what the Bible says. So today, what I want you to go with me on this little journey of truth here is that maybe you've experienced that. Maybe you've been to a place and you say, man, I quit going to church. I had a guy just the other day tell me, he said, man, I'm just so mad. I'm so angry. I'm so hostile because I got hurt and wounded. He was a veteran. He had probably a little bit of a problem with, some addictions. He had probably not a good choice of wardrobe, kind of like yours truly, just, blue jean t-shirt kind of guy. And he shows up at one of the bigger churches, and he literally said to me that they said, we don't need any guys like you here. Now, I'm not going to say that that's probably the full verbatim thing. I don't know that, and I'm certainly not going to make those insinuations or try to assume those things. But here's the crux of it. Many times I've had people, and maybe you're one of them today, that says, I went to church and people looked me up and down. My reputation followed me in the door. I wasn't maybe the most best dressed. I'm still struggling and battling through things. Maybe you're dealing with something in your past, maybe something in your present that you're dealing with that you feel like would disqualify you from being in a place where you can go fellowship, congregate, and be with people. Well, let me go back to what I just read you. It says Jesus was hanging out with sinners, tax collectors, people that were drinking, the modern day equivalent of a Johnny or a Jesse, or even in my day when I was really out there, of me. And he came to them. Here's the good thing though. He came there and loved them and became part of their life and gave them hope, as we'll talk about toward the end. He gave them hope, but he also didn't leave them that way. He showed them it was more than just religion. It was more than just a system of rules. It was more than just a system of do's and don'ts. It was more than just a thing of saying, I belong to this fellowship. I belong to this. Now, I know I may upset some people by saying this, but listen, there's no name out there going to get you to heaven. There's no name out there you're affiliated with going to get you there. He made it clear he was with those people. Why? Because he loved them and he knew one thing important, they needed him. Listen, I don't know if you're a Johnny or a Jesse. I don't know if you're somebody today that says, man, I understand this song. It's hit me right in the heart. It's hit me in the gut. If it is, I want you to know something. That's what Jesus would do. He'd be there for you. He'd reach out his hand. He would tell you, I'll be there no matter what you go through because I love you. That's what he would do. And I hope as you've listened to this song, I hope that as you've listened to this story, and particularly the truth that's came out on Backroads Truth today, that you realize that, because I believe today that somebody needs to hear this, man. I know I did. Close with this little story right quick. I'll never forget at being I don't want to say successful, because if you could call it that, it really wasn't much of a success. It was playing in smoky dives and smoky bars and, what we call honky tonks, man, honky tonks, beer joints, and I'll never forget, man, I did that for years. And once I kind of came to a place where I said, man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to try to change my life. I didn't know anything other than just look upward and say, God, can you help me? And of course he did. And he did by way of what I'm going to convey to you guys in just a few minutes. He did. And the first thing happened, I started writing a few songs. And so word got around that the ex-honky-tonker had got religion or something. I don't know if that's what was going on, but that's what it seemed like. So I got invited to come down to the big church there in my hometown. I mean, it's on the right side of the tracks. I'm on the other side. My reputation is, miles long in me being a nightclub singer and everything that goes along with that, And so I show up that day in this beat up GMC pickup, mullet flying in the wind, denim clothing on, cowboy hat, walking with a beat up guitar case. And I step into that giant foyer. Is that how you say that? Foyer, whatever. And as I go in there, here's all the upper echelon of my community, and here's me. And you know what happened? I felt that. I thought, man, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not acceptable. I'm not accepted. And even though this probably wasn't done maliciously, many people projected that toward me. I'm sure they were astonished to see somebody like me in there. But they projected that on me maybe because of some of the things I'm saying today. And it hurt me. Hurt my feelings because I thought, man, if that's the way they view me, then that's probably the way God views me. I hope this song today and the songwriting that's been behind it and the story that's behind it and the revelation, if you want to call it that I had about my life and how I hope to live my life, I hope it has helped you to see that is not the way that God views you. God loves you. We're all Johnnies. We're all Jessies. Maybe just not as many people playing it out, Maybe just not as many people that are doing it. But when we look at real truth, we see that all of us have fallen short. All of us, we cannot find our way or get ourselves there by no titles, no organizations, and certainly by not religion. So if you've ever been hurt, maybe you've been through a deal and you say, man, I don't want to go back to church. Well, listen, I want you to know today that I think it's great if you can find a place. I think it's great if you can hold your head up high and walk in there and say, man, I've been forgiven. I was one of those guys that Jesus hung out with. He came to me and loved me. And yes, we've all made mistakes, but now I realize that that's not the way that God feels about me. And so this song, I pray, as we get ready to close, would be a reflection of that. Just real quickly, you may say, well, I don't really know, how to do it. You're going to hear a lot more about that as this program goes on. But I want to close by letting you know, God loves you. That's what his son has done for us. Came into our lives. So we, the broken, we, the hurting, we, the unworthy, as I felt that day at that big church, we can have, the assurance. He's not going to reject us. He's not going to turn his back on us. He's going to love us. And from that, if you'll have faith and believe, you'll see that to be true. So anyway, that's what Jesus would do. I want to tell you guys, you can go by our website. It's www.backroadstruth.com. A lot of information, episodes I'm sure you can find out about, and we're going to have some exciting stuff on the website. And you get to know a little bit more about us. Some of the things maybe I don't cover on here, you'll get to see and explore that and take that journey on the website, so to speak, so you can know a little bit more about what we are and what we do. So in the meantime, I want you to know that, hey, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor going down these old back roads, taking a ride down this road of just real, this road of just, reality and realness. And I hope and pray it's been a blessing for you. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time down the back roads. Bye-bye.